Conversations across time, 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 conversations across time.
Good evening. Welcome to Conversations Across Time. It seems like it's been a while since we've had an opportunity to talk to you, and so much has been going on, and I'm so excited that we are here in the studio. And in the studio with me today, I have Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, who has been a guest on this show on many occasions. And seated next to Justice Holmes is General Benedict Arnold. And from a remote location, we have General Douglas MacArthur. Now, that's a strange combination of men, but I think in light of what is going on today, their lives really are illustrative of what it is that we as citizens have to be mindful of. So, that being said, I am going to ask I'm going to ask General Arnold, who is visiting us, how it is that history has treated you, because your name is synonymous with treason.
To be honest, Miss Crawford, what I have done, I'm, I am deeply ashamed of. I, I married into a very prominent Tory family in Philadelphia, and my wife had an affair with the British intelligence agent, Major John Henry, and and my wife convinced me to uh, attempt to pass on to Major Henry the plans of the fortifications at West Point, where, where I was placed in command by General Washington.
Let me just stop you there for one moment, because I mean, we've got General MacArthur here. We also have Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. We are able to look at your life from a different perspective. One of the things that I was amazed to find out was that you had all of the traits of an idealist. You believed in the cause, you spent your own money to support the Revolutionary War, but you got disillusioned along the way. And I would like, if Justice MacArthur, General MacArthur, if you have any thoughts about that. You're a military man, and Benedict Arnold certainly did and was accused of treason. But I just believe in the research that I've done. It does seem to me that maybe the country betrayed him.
Absolutely. I think the country did betray him. I think a lot of it had to do with General Gage not giving him credit, started there. Continental Congress not giving him uh, maybe his laurels, for lack of a better term. I think that he wanted to perhaps command a ship in the Navy. They wouldn't give that to him either. I mean, there was a lot of things that uh, he didn't receive from the country that perhaps he should have, or they should have at least considered um, giving him. And then maybe things would turn out a little bit different. Washington making him the commander of Philadelphia probably, sent him down a wrong path. So
Which is
there's
when he
there's a little
met
bit of
Peggy.
correct. So there's a little bit of everything involved there.
It is true, General MacArthur, Miss Crawford. There's so much political tugging and pulling going on in the Continental Congress. I originally came into the cause of the revolution, believing the Congress's uh, Declaration, all men are created equal, and we are in the midst of the European Enlightenment, from whence we attain these beliefs that were in the Declaration. However, I have found that the members of the Congress had this idea that they themselves would be some new aristocracy for the new nation.
I'm appalled that you trying to justify your treasonous activity. There's no justification for committing treason against your country. When I ruled on in the Scheck case, I sent a man to prison for just speaking out against the draft during even before a war. Of course, it was sedition then, and you're trying to justify turning against your country in wartime. To me, that there's no justification for it, and you could blame the Congress, and you could blame the general staff of the Continental Army, and you can blame your wife, and you can blame Major Andre, but there's still no excuse for what you did.
That is true, Mr. Justice Holmes. I betrayed my country, and when I went to Britain to attain my military commission as a brigadier general, I was well received by the Tory party, but then the Whig party, which opposed the war and supported the American cause, came to power, and they looked down on me. But that's what happens to traitors. People who sell out their country. Even the people they betray their country to have no respect for them. So
you were a decorated military man. I mean, you saved this country in its infancy. You spent your own money. But I think we can't examine you without looking towards some of your history. You were born into a family of aristocrats.
Yes, that's true.
Your mother died. Your father became the town drunk. Squandered the family fortune. I don't think you ever recovered from that.
No, I haven't. Somebody who was supposed to protect me and rear me right was wrong himself. Instead of trying to deal with my mother's passing, he just took the family fortune and family business and drank it all away, as you say.
Well, I want to just for the purpose of our audience understanding, your mother was a Calvinist and had this very deep religious belief that we were all going to die, that we were all sinners. And I think that's probably part of what made you such a brilliant military man, because you didn't have any anticipation of living very long anyway, based upon being brought up as a Calvinist. And so you would attack, you would lead your men, and they would follow you. They were loyal to you. That's
true, Ms. Crawford. I was not a coward. In the several campaigns I was in like the Battle of Quebec City in Canada, I sustained a wound in one of my legs, and both my legs were injured. So I am guilty of treason, but not cowardice.
General MacArthur, did you hear that statement? I was guilty of treason, but not of cowardice. How do you, from your perch as a military man, see that?
Well, it's, from my perspective, it's they're two totally separate things. You can be a military genius, but that doesn't make you a brave person. I think that there's some issues with his backbone when it perhaps came up to his wife. Maybe that's part of the problem, is he didn't have the courage to stand up to her. And being, like you said, a person who was in on the revolution, he was all about that. Then he marries a loyalist woman who kind of flips him over to the other side. So maybe he didn't stand up to her. There's lots of reasons why there had to be lots of reasons why he changed sides the way he did.
Yep.
It just doesn't add up that, you can go out, put your life on the line on Lake Champlain in front of all these British ships and take the wounds that he did and still fight and still try to get through what he did. And then in a matter of really months, turn around and decide that he's going to betray the cause that he had fought so hard for.
It is true, General MacArthur.
Justice Holmes.
But I think General MacArthur hit the nail on the head. There are probably three reasons: his disillusionment with the Congress and being promoted, or being looked over and not being promoted; his desire to get even, or and also his wife. And I think he let his, I don't even know how to say it, his little head be confused with his brain, and he listened to Peggy, and Peggy was influenced by General Andre and Major Andre, I'm sorry, and he betrayed his country. And it's a shame, because he had the ability to be an asset even after independence, and he just became a betrayal, and there's no excuse for that. And we have people in our country now that we could say the same thing about.
Very true, Mr. Justice Holmes. General Washington assigned me to be the military governor of Philadelphia, and after the British forces were removed, and I hung about the Shippen family, Peggy among them, and other loyalist aristocratic factions. It's a shameful thing. At my period of impoverishment because of my father's alcoholism pushed me to be this upward striver.
But don't your position in terms of wanting to be more, that you were looked down upon in your hometown.
Yes.
After your mother died. But before she passed, your father was a drunk, and you were dispatched to go and bring him home. And what I find interesting about that is that the church structure was set up in such a way that you sat in a pew that designated your social class. And your mother was very upset because you guys lost your front pew because of the change in your financial fortunes.
That's true.
Now, we presently have an instance where there was a man who succeeded in becoming the president of the United States. And he was and is still considered an outsider. He came from, is it the Bronx? Came from the Bronx.
Queens.
From Queens. Was never accepted, that's right, not the Bronx, I'm so sorry, was never accepted by polite New York society. And he has done everything in his power to make himself be accepted by them. So when you have a loser, when you have someone that has that kind of psychological background, that foments treason.
Well, it does. I think, that to that type of acceptance to do anything to move up the social strata
Yes.
can cause people to do things that are detrimental to the country in the long run. You know, social climbers are dangerous
Yes.
if they're put in those kind of positions, and I think that's what happened to General Arnold. I really do, and I think if he had been with a different woman, not a Tory woman, he may have been behaved much differently, and he may have had a place in the country after independence.
From my own perspective, Ms. Crawford, Mr. Justice Holmes, and General MacArthur, in my knowledge about Mr. Trump, I mean, that is no excuse. I mean, he wasn't some poor child of poverty. Yes, he wasn't of the elite like the Rockefellers, etc. But he how do you put it? I mean, his father was pretty politically connected. I said connected enough to uh, uh, have Donald pull these strings to prevent Donald from entering military service during Vietnam, including the bone spurs thing. And there had to be there was something in the family of Mr. Fred Trump that that caused Donald to be the way he is, just always this upward climbing, and more and more and more.
Well, we don't have
Well, I'm a Yankee,
a patrician.
however you want to call it, and I see in you, and I see in Donald Trump the desire to move up. I was born into it. I'm a true Yankee, a Boston Yankee, and New England Yankee, and I see that same tendency, and people who do that may engage in all kind of activities to further that goal in their own mind that would be detrimental in the long run to the country.
Yes, it seems to me that there is a hierarchy even among aristocrats, millionaires, like some person who would be a leading figure in his home county could, upon arriving in Washington, be treated like a nobody.
Well, General MacArthur is of the patrician class.
I am aware of that.
Very much raised in a manner that fostered arrogance.
Well, General MacArthur's father was a hero in the Civil War, and I was wounded in the Civil War. And I think the general inherited many of his dad's military abilities and many of his father's autocratic traits.
But I must say that, Mr. Justice Holmes, that Mr. Donald Trump hasn't acquired his father's business skills.
Now, I'm talking about General MacArthur.
I'm sorry.
Donald, no matter what you did, which is horrendous, and MacArthur's problems with FDR called him the most dangerous man in America, more dangerous than Huey Long. No matter what his problems with
Eisenhower,
President Truman during the Korean War, and Eisenhower, even when Eisenhower served under him, Donald Trump could not measure up to you or General MacArthur as a human being.
I'm glad you say that. What I was misguided by Peggy in committing my treason against the country, but
so how do you view former President Trump's behavior? Since there's no war, it can't be treason unless there's a war.
Right.
Right? But how do you view his actions? For instance, he's charged with taking materials from the White House that contained military secrets. He's not unlike you in terms of what you were seeking to turn over to Major John Andre. He's not unlike you. How do you view that? I mean, I'm just curious because you're here. We've sort of tried to humanize you for the audience, just based upon research. Because, quite frankly, when I was growing up, what we were taught was Benedict Arnold bad. Everything negative that could be ascribed to a military man was ascribed to you. No mention of your brilliant military career, your bravery, none of that was mentioned, just the fact that you committed treason. So now we have someone who was the president, former president, who's seeking to be president again, and he has taken military secrets. We will never know, the public will never really understand the extent of the documentation that Donald Trump had stored in a bathroom and stored on a stage, like unsecured. We will never know the extent of that because those documents are confidential. But how? I mean, you can certainly understand how, for me, sitting here in 2024, looking at an upcoming presidential race and saying, well, I think you would have been a better president than Donald Trump, because at least you had served in the military and he's an idiot. And I say that not because I can't come up with some other colorful terms to call him, but I call him an idiot because it's immediately understood by our audience. So how do you view his actions regarding the documents? Of course, the trial won't happen before the election, but how do you view Trump's actions regarding the documents? Do you put them in the same category as your interaction with Major Andre?
Well, Mr. Trump's betrayal, I would say, is greater than my own. Not that I'm excusing myself. I mean, Mr. Trump definitely, I believe, passed on to Mr. Putin and Xi Jinping so many of our vital military secrets.
Now, I want to put a pin in that for one moment, because I want to ask General MacArthur, who hated with a passion communism. So when we talk about Trump having meetings where he put the press out of the room, he put the translators out of the room, and he had meetings with Lavrov, who was the ambassador. And I don't know I think he got put out of the country, did he not? But Lavrov was the Russian ambassador to the United States. Trump had Lavrov in the Oval Office, and no one from the United States government was present. We don't know what they discussed. So, General MacArthur, have you any opinion on where we are? Because you hate communism.
Absolutely, fought against it, against a lot of regimes over in the Pacific. The thing is that, it's funny that you were mentioning some things. Roosevelt kept me along because he didn't want me running for president. So
yeah, he also said you're a great general, but a lousy politician. Yeah.
But, if you've got something to hide, then you kick everybody out of the room. And apparently, we don't have proof of anything that went on behind those closed doors, but it certainly doesn't pass the smell test. It doesn't look good, no matter how you want to cut that. I mean, if you were being an open book, if you're the president, in most cases you need to be the open book. It's the public that puts you there. You can't run around behind these closed doors meeting with people who are antithetical to your government. I mean, communism doesn't mix with democracy. So, I mean, that's, I don't understand how he got away with that to begin with. And treasonous, that's hard to say. You can't go to treason without war, obviously. Sedition, maybe, okay. But again, we don't know what exactly happened behind those closed doors. So I think it fed his own ego, and believe me, I know a little bit about ego. So there's that,
One of the people that served under you and your father said that your father was the most arrogant man he ever met until he met you.
Correct. I was trying to outdo my father is not an easy thing.
Yeah, yes, but
to defend that just a little bit, I kind of equate it to. I heard somebody say about how wide receivers in football are a pain in the ass, especially the good ones. Well, you need to have that ego to do a certain job. General Patton had that ego, and look at the job he did. I had that ego. I got across the Pacific and fought the Japanese back. So you have to have a certain amount of egotism to have the mindset to do the things that you need to do in those situations. That doesn't make you a great person to be president. That doesn't make you a great person to manage a baseball team. However you want to put that. There's certain places for it, and then there's other places where it's not really needed. Like MacArthur said, old soldiers don't die; they just fade away.
I must say that first of all, the communism is, as we've known it, is pretty much gone. I mean, the old Soviet Union regime has dissolved. The Soviet republics have their independence, and the so-called communist regime in China is now totally capitalist.
It doesn't matter, though, because people still use it as a political wedge, as a threat. And in fact, one of the reasons MacArthur and Hoover disbanded the bonus march in Washington was because MacArthur thought that the leaders of the march were communists and were trying to espouse the communist philosophy to the veterans who weren't being treated fairly. So, if you even listen, from wherever I'm at, to Trump speak, he calls all his opponents fascist communists. So they still use it, even though he probably can't define it.
And with that, I am so grateful that we have had this time together to be able to discuss exactly what is happening, the peril that our country, our nation is facing at this point. And I would invite the audience. Our raison d'etre is to engage citizens, to engage people to vote. You cannot complain about anything if you don't vote. We're not telling you how to vote. We're just telling you that you must vote. If you are as alarmed about the current situation that this nation is facing, you must vote. And not only must you vote, you must do everything in your power to get everyone around you to vote. That's your task. That's your duty. That's your sacred duty. We owe that to generations to come. So I thank you. This has been Conversations Across Time. Please join us next week when we will be talking about the Supreme Court. Thank you very much.
Conversations across time. Conversations across time.